Hello. Today we're going to talk about the present perfect. We'll talk about the different functions, so the different uses of this tense, as well as how to form it. So, first of all, let's think about this question. When did it happen? Here are some possible answers. I went to the supermarket last Saturday. I went to Egypt 10 years ago. I started at Nottingham College in 2016. I moved to Russia after I finished university. These sentences are all in the past simple. They are all completed actions and we know when they happened. Last Saturday, 10 years ago, in 2016. After I finished university, we know when they all happened. But if we compare that now with these examples, Josh has lived in 4 countries. I've eaten goat's brains. I've been to Croatia. Are they completed actions? Well, yes, they are. But do we know when? No, we don't. So, for completed past actions, we need to use the past simple tense if we know when the action took place, when it happened. We use the present perfect if we don't know or we don't say when it happened. So one of the functions, one of the uses of the present perfect tense is to connect the past to the present. So we use it for an action that began in the past and hasn't finished. For example, I've lived in my house for almost 2 years. I've worked at the college since 2016. With those kind of sentences, when we connect the past to now, we typically see one of these 2 prepositions in the sentence, for or since. With for, we can use expressions like 3 months, 6 years, 8 hours, a long time. With since, we can use things like months, dates, or years, times, an action in the past. Okay, so we use for with a period of time, whereas we use since with a point in time. Another use of the present perfect is to talk about life experiences. So something that happened at some time in my life, in your life. We don't know, or it's not important when it happened. With a question, we often ask, have you ever? And we could say, I've never. We also use the present perfect to talk about actions, completed actions, in an unfinished time period, in a time period that is still happening. For example, I've had 4 glasses of water today. Well, today hasn't finished. I might have more glasses of water later on. I've taught 5 lessons this week. This week hasn't finished. There's still more time. I might teach some more lessons this week. We've made a lot of progress so far. So far means until now. We also use the present perfect to talk about a past action with a present result. For example, I've made dinner. It's ready, we can eat it. I've booked a hotel for next summer. The result is I've got the confirmation. We've got the booking. I've invited them to the meeting. The result is they're coming. I'm not hungry. I've eaten a big dinner. So I've eaten a big dinner is the present perfect. I'm not hungry is the result of it. To form the present perfect, we take the subject, so I, you, he, she, it, we, they, Mr. Brown, the children, and we add to it have or has, followed by the past participle, which is the third form of the verb. For example, done, made, wanted, forgotten. To form the negative, it's very similar. So again, we start with the subject, but this time we have haven't or hasn't, followed by the past participle. To make the question, we have a question word to begin with, but we don't always need the question word. It's necessary sometimes, but we don't always have to have it. That's followed by have or has, followed by the subject, and lastly, the past participle. So we can ask a question, for example, where have you been? But we don't need the question word. We can say, have you been to the shop? We can use some adverbs with the present perfect tense. Just or recently are common adverbs that we use. They mean that an action happened a short time ago. And we use them between have and the past participle. For example, I've just seen a rat. I've recently watched a film. Although recently, you can also use at the end of the sentence. I've watched a film recently. We can also use already. That means sometime before now. And just like just, we use it between have and the past participle. For example, we've already learned about past simple. Ever means at any time, and often we use it in a question. For example, have you ever been to Canada? Never means not at any time. And although it has a negative meaning, we use it with a positive verb. For example, I've never been to China. And yet. Yet is used with negative sentences and questions, and typically we use it at the end. For example, she hasn't finished yet. Have you called the plumber yet? It's quite common to use the present perfect with superlatives and ever. For example, that was the best meal I've ever had. It was the angriest she's ever been. It's the most expensive thing we've ever bought. So, to summarize the different uses of the present perfect, we use the present perfect for a completed past action when we don't know or we don't say when the action happened. We can use it for actions that started in the past and continue to now. And typically, with that use, we use for or since with it. We use it for life experiences, for completed past actions in the present time period, and for completed past actions with present results. So, I'm going to leave you with some questions to think about. They're all in the present perfect. Think about how you would answer these questions. Think about how you would use the present perfect And if you give extra information, what tense will you use? For example, if I answer the question, who have you talked to today? I could say, I have talked to my husband, I've talked to my children, and I have talked to some colleagues. I could follow that up with, I talked to my husband this morning. I talked to my children during the day when I was homeschooling them. I talked to my colleagues during a meeting. Thank you for watching.